back to the Financial Freedom Now podcast. I am super joyed to have a special guest with us. It is no other than Dr. Daniel Moses. Now, I was looking through your intro and your bio, and I was like, wow. I mean, and one of the things I've made sure I did not do is ask you any questions, any Julia, because I wanted to be able to reveal it all to our audience. I think you are a fantastic person to bring onto the show talking about financial freedom now. I'm absolutely glad to have you with us. I mean, I didn't want to go into your bio, even though I have it right here. But I mean, it was just too compelling not to actually go through it. And I know a lot of it you actually would talk about once we go on into the gist of the matter, right? But looking at your background, I think I will start off from the aspect of you being a doctor. I would do the intro and you will have it in the show notes, but I want you to get it very original from Dr. Daniel himself. So welcome to the Financial Freedom Now show. We're super glad to have you. Hello, doctor. Why doctor? Let's start with that. Why doctor? And then you do your intro.
Very interesting, very interesting. Every single time, especially over the last year or so, ever since I became a doctor, it's kind of sparked a very interesting question from people. How did you become a doctor? You medical doctor, and I think especially in England, people often don't understand that doctorate degrees, or rather doctorate qualifications. It's not just by being a medical doctor. You can become a PhD holder and you can become a doctor. You can be decorated with a doctorate award, subject of to your achievement in life and what you've contributed to serving, to societies, or the impact of what you're making. So in this particular case, I was awarded and decorated with a doctorate award from the Cornerstone University in the United States of America, Atlanta, Georgia, to be very precise. And then this was just in accreditation of my work I've done over the last coming up to 4 years now. I've been a property speaker, a business speaker, a coach, a mentor, a teacher, a trainer, and as well as an author of 2 books. The second book is due to be released in a couple of weeks from now, to be very precise, on the 14th of July. So a couple of years ago, I think this was late part of 2021, I got reached out by this university in recognition of every single work I've ever done, and to be honored and decorated with a doctorate award rather than an academical award as a doctor. So I was accredited a doctorate award as a Christian leadership, under Christian leadership, and as well as under the philosophy institute. So bring it both together. That is exactly how I became a doctor of business and Christian leadership and philosophy.
So you know what, guys? I did say I've got a fantastic person. Now you can obviously get the intro. Not only do you get someone with the wealth of knowledge that Dr. Daniel has got, but you also are now have the insight into the background of how he's come about his doctorate degree. One of the things I say we have in common straight away, obviously, apart from property, is the fact that I'm also a Christian. So I can already see this conversation going on really well. Not to say that I wouldn't have a good conversation with anyone else, but I see things that we have
Yes.
in common. So let's start off from the very beginning. Can you tell us about your background, where you started from in business? Obviously, this is talking about financial freedom now. Where you started off in business and where you are today.
So where I started from in business, I probably say 22 years back. It goes all the way back 22 years. All my life I've been an entrepreneur. All my life has been a business person. I've always been someone who bring little ideas together and to generate an income from it. I'm someone who brought little ideas together and turned into something else. I'm somebody who basically would sell anything to anyone, apart from illegal drugs. So all my life, I've basically been, an entrepreneur. So my journey of entrepreneurship started way back from, Edo State, Nigeria. I was born and bred in Edo State, Nigeria. I come from a very significant family. At a very young age in my life, especially at the early parts of my, adulthood. I went to University of Benin where I studied sociology and anthropology, and I got a third class degree, upper third class upper division. And whilst I was in school, I was a guy who sold anything. I sold everything and anything sellable. To be honest, I go quite in depth about that birth of the entrepreneur, about myself, in my new book called The Test, the transitioning of the ordinary to the extraordinary. So I kind of go deep into how this whole thing started as an entrepreneur. So it was all way back from university that it started, and due to unforeseen circumstances at that time, which again I share great details in my book, is what led me to transitioning from Nigeria to coming all the way to England in search of a more safer life, and as well as in search of greener pasture. So that is what baited my entrepreneurial
Mm.
journey.
Absolutely. I don't know if you saw me winking there. When you said you studied for your first degree sociology, that was what I studied for my first degree, and I've not met anyone else. This was me back in Nigeria University of Lagos. I studied sociology and anthropology. I was like, what?
Yes.
Obviously, I went on to then have my master's in business administration in Durham University. But literally, oh wow, we're getting more in common, right? Okay, let me focus. Right, what are the most the common misconceptions you have about or myth that you have about financial freedom now? So this podcast, I mean, I could get into lots of conversation because I'm getting excited just even getting
Yeah.
to know you. But I want us to focus on financial freedom. What are the common misconceptions or myth you found out about it, and how have you been able to debunk them? Because I know one of the things you that I noticed in your bio said about, if I mean, you of all people know that success can be achieved by all, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to also, what are the common misconceptions that you have found in your journey, and how would you debunk them?
Fantastic question, by the way. To be honest, I will say this. I think I just sometimes say this all the time, looking back at 22 years later, and I said to myself, I wish I actually got trained, or I actually got mentored at the early stage of my life to truly understanding from the time
Mm,
I made a decision to become an entrepreneur. So from the day I made an entrepreneur, made up my mind to become an entrepreneur 22 years back, I wish I basically went step by step and I got the appropriate guidance of, in fact, if there was a manual that says your journey as an entrepreneur is not a get rich quick. It is get rich for sure, but set a plan, evaluate those plans through your journey.
mm,
I think I would probably be one of the most successful entrepreneurs at my age now. I'm 43 years of age. But what I did not understand about entrepreneurship was that entrepreneurship was, I saw entrepreneurship as, something that I needed to do to just make money. I saw entrepreneurship as, okay, let me sell this to towing and I'll make £1,000 profit. And I need to sell the next one, I make £1,000 profit. So that was the inception of my entrepreneurial mindset, right? Now, how do you debunk the fact that, when it comes to financial freedom, the very first thing is that entrepreneurs need to understand that when you make a decision to become financially free, it is not a get rich quick process. It is taking one step at a time. And it's all about seeking knowledge. It's all about adapting those knowledge. It is all about implementing those knowledge. And once you have seek the knowledge, adapt the knowledge, you have to then have a blueprint. You have to have a path to follow. And you need to then set yourself at least a minimum of 5-year plan. It's very important. I say 5 years. Most corporates, most businesses that got set up from the get go, businesses tend to fail, all right, within the first year, within the first 2 years, within the first 3 years. Looking at entrepreneurship and businesses backwards, in order for you to say you're even successful, you have to have at least done one thing for at least a minimum of 5 years. Proven track record of
mm,
this thing has worked and it's worked for 5 years in order for you to even see yourself as a success. Otherwise, you're just having a side hustle. Otherwise, you're just looking to sell 20 something, make £1,000,
mm,
sell another one, make £1,000. And then people start to confuse side hustle for being an entrepreneur. So for me, looking backwards now, I wish I had knew that what I was for so many years was I was just trying to get by. I was just trying to generate an income to pay my bill.
Mm.
So, and I think this is one, even in the property space, when I see people talk about, oh yeah, I need to, I'm getting into property because I need to get wealthy tomorrow. I'm like, wake up. I'm getting into
It's
property.
a long term
I'm
game.
getting into property, and and I need to secure 2 3 rent to rent. And when I secure 2 3 rent to rent as an HMO or service accommodation, my life will be easy. No, it doesn't work like that. It takes time for you to transition. You
Tell
need
me
to
about
transition your
it.
mindset. Oh, I want to become a property developer.
Mm.
Are you prepared to cry and then wake up from that cry when that lender declines your application last minute? Or when that lender says A, B, or C because you haven't got
Mm.
this experience and something that was never, spoken about during the appraisal of the project. So the fact is that when it comes to financial freedom, there is work to be done. And I think people just need to understand that except you adopt the mindset to be prepared to work, okay, you have to work. There is no such thing as get rich quick. I've been in this game for a while now, and I've come to realize like the get rich quick is just everybody wants it, but the truth is that where the money lies is you setting up yourself a plan. If you fail, if it's looking like it's going to fail in the first year, no problem. Navigate your way through it. 2 years time, you're still doing the same thing. Navigate your way through it. 3 years time, you're still doing the same thing. Navigate your way through it. Then when you look backwards 5 years, then you can actually say, you know what? I am actually building myself up to navigate to now have financial abundance and financial security. Otherwise, anything below 5 years, what you've just done, you've created an income, all right? And if you don't protect that income,
Mm.
it can disappear just like that. One simple step, one simple mistake, one silly decision, it all can disappear. And then looking back 5 years, of my journey, then 10 years to my journey, then 15 years, then 20 years, then 22 years now, I'm like, okay, I've seen every time that I made the bad decision, I made the good decision, and I did what I should have done, and I done what I had to do to protect the business. So, and that is what eventually navigates you and say, you know what, yes, I can actually build through to having financial freedom. Financial freedom is not just the money as well. It's all about how, as well, can you pay other people to do those activities that you don't really enjoy in your business. And we can go deep into several levels on what financial freedom really means, because a lot of people are getting out of a very good 9 to 5 job to wanting to come into a business to build their financial freedom, and not realizing actually you're going to work more as an entrepreneur, as self-employed, more than you actually work in your job.
Absolutely. You're so spot on that. And it is all of those misconceptions that make a lot of people, we have more people get into business and get out than actually people that go all the way through and become successful purely because of all of this misconceptions. So absolutely spot on that. I think you touched on something I want to talk about. How important is mindset when it comes to financial success and achieving financial freedom? What would you say are the specific mindset shifts that our listeners need to adopt to move from that place of just being a side hustle to actually running a successful business?
Again, I refer back to 20 years or 22 years now. Looking back at 22 years of my journey, all right, one of the things I'll say is it's definitely 1 billion% mindset first. Your mindset have to be in the
Mm.
right place. A confused mind cannot even create. If you have a confused mind, you cannot create. And entrepreneurs and business people are creators, people who basically bring one or two ideas and take that market to become a service in the market, so that that service that you're providing in the market then pays you an income. The income then pays your running costs, your business expenses, and then pay you a salary. And then you then from your salary probably have a savings, and you obviously you grow that business from growth to scale. All right. The most difficult part is that a lot of people start, and a lot of people end up not growing and actually quitting and then going back to a 9 to 5 job. So if you're not prepared to understand that the life of an entrepreneur is full of seasons, raining, all right, when it's raining, the summer is here and everybody loves the sunshine, all right. But out of the time, you're going to be in winter more than you're going to be in summer. So if you don't have the right mindset to understand there's more cold. So for example, we have, sometimes if we're lucky, we have 4 months of sun in England. All right, 4 months of sun in England.
Mm.
That's if we're lucky. But if we're not lucky, usually we'll get about 2 to 3 months of sun, good sun in England, right? So, and I use the English weather to describe entrepreneurship. You don't know what to expect. In one single day, there will be sun, there will be rain, there will be wind, it will be drizzling, there's blue sky. And that's the
Yeah.
easiest way to really understand entrepreneurship. So if you don't then have the right mindset to navigate those different seasons in your journey as an entrepreneur, the chances that it's not going to work, and then you end up just
Mm.
chasing money rather than actually tracing growth and stability in your business. So mindset is everything.
Absolutely. And I suppose that mindset is what helped you transition from running a £150,000 business that failed and then being able to transition to your seven-figure business now. Can you tell us about, I mean, I want to get into it now. Can you tell us how that experience, what happened there, and how you've been able to transition into what you do now?
The £150,000 loss in my business happened to have been the biggest loss that I had. Before that, I had many, many, many other losses. But the £150,000 loss was the highest I grew to. All right. It was the highest I grew to at that time. And when I grew to that level, I ended up also losing it. So what happened was that I've lived in England for a while at that time. In 2012, I decided to relocate back to Nigeria because I didn't really love where I was, or what I was doing, or how my life was going in England. I haven't lived there previously, for at least over 7 to 8 years at that time. And I was able to go back and forth, back and forth. So 1 month, sometime I'm in Nigeria, sometime I'm back in the UK. However, in 2012, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go back to Nigeria and just go and set up a business, and start a life. Even though my wife and kids was here, so go back to Nigeria, build a business. I have more connections in Nigeria. I can get introductions and and all these things, because my life at that time was, I was very, 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 very enclosed in my Nigerian, community, especially, being around people who were from the same, community as me. As you know, Nigerians, the moment you see someone speak Yoruba, automatically you're your brother and your sister. The moment you see somebody speak Igbo, they're your brother and your sister. So for me, all the years I lived before that 2012 were all people speaking Edo language, and we were just close with family. And that's how and I never really knew anything outside of that. So at that time, I decided to relocate back to Nigeria to start a business in oil and gas. I got back to Nigeria in 2012, got started in oil and gas, doing my research and setting up the business. So what I did was I was haulaging petroleum products. So I would move the petroleum products from the depots to the end user, the petrol station. They will sell. I will make, very good margin, profit. I reinvest it. And from 2012 all the way to 2015, that business was really going well. So that allowed me to travel back and forth from Nigeria to England to see my wife and my kids. I will come into England. I will spend a month. I'll go back to Nigeria. I'll spend 3 or 4 months. I'll come back again, and that was my shuttle back and forth, back and forth. My wife was here. My kids are going to school here, and yeah, we have much. We had money to at least just do the basic. And again,
Mm.
that's most times that's what entrepreneurs is about, right? Entrepreneurs, okay, as long as it's making money, but we're not really thinking of how to put in some structures in places. So way back in 2015, towards the end of 2015, I'm back in England, and as the usual, and I'm home. And one night, my driver rings me up, and says there's been a major issue. What is it? He's screaming on the phone. He's shouting. He's crying. I'm like, calm down. And he eventually calms down, and he says, two of my trailers, 65,000 liters of tankers carrying petroleum products from the western part of Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria had just run into each other just around the River Niger area in Nigeria, and they've basically fell into the valley, and there's been an explosion, massive. The whole place is gutted with fire, and the products, the trucks, everything else in there was worth over 150 million naira. And I'm like just
Mm.
tired. I don't even know. I'm just stuck in confusion, you know. And
Mm.
instantly, the only thing I can ask myself was that, God, why? Like,
Mm.
why? And I just, okay. And I put down the phone. And I went through for the next couple of months, and I'm just researching my life. I'm like, okay, all my life, I used to sell cars, I used to sell clothes, I used to sell anything sellable. Now I'm in oil and gas, challenge after challenge. Is actually entrepreneurship for me or not? Because it don't seem to be working. I'm trying to make a living. It
Mm.
almost feels like all I'm doing is to make money to just live, make money to have a life, and that's it. But it's like I can't, what's going on? And that massive loss of £150,000 in a single, you know, accident, was a major blow to my face, like literally blow to my face. Now that happened, and once that happened, a couple of months later, my wife is asking me, so what next? I said, I don't know. I'm not, the entrepreneurship is not for me. I quitted being an entrepreneur and I went and I found myself a delivery driving job. So I started driving as a delivery driver because I've never really had a job, proper job, So I just went and I started being a delivery driver. From a delivery driving job to becoming an Uber driver. So I started driving taxi. And then I remember driving taxis for at least 18 hours every single day, uh, just to kind of,
Wow.
have enough money to now kind of, look after what the way I was already living my life. And yeah, so I had to drive
Mhm.
over 18 hours a day, over 100 plus hours, over 140 to almost 150 hours a week, Monday to Sunday, just to
That's
make
amazing.
just to make around about £3,000 to £5,000 if I was lucky. If I'm not lucky, I probably my base rate would have been 3K a month. Worst case, 3 5. I mean 4K, 5K, and that was exactly what I had to do all the way through 2016, 2017. But towards the end of 2016, the thing is, when you're a born entrepreneur, it never dies, right? So, and I
It
just
never
kept,
dies.
it just never dies. So I went through that for the very first 8 months of my life. It was really, really painful. And it was very embarrassing as well at the same time because my wife is looking at me like, is this it for us now? Like, it's, I
Mm.
thought you said you're
We don't.
stronger. I thought you're stronger. Again, that took a toll in our marriage. It took a toll in my
I can
kids. But then from that, I went into depression. you know I went into depression. I was placed on 2 to 300 milligram, if I'm right, of amitriptyline. I can't sleep. I'm going through mental issues. I'm going through so many things. The only thing I was never it didn't get to being suicidal, because for me at that point in time,
Yeah.
my mom is an African woman. My mom is asking me, who have I offended?
Mhm.
You must have offended someone. There's people after you. My mom is coming with, oh, I went to this pastor, I went to this imam, I went to this place, I went to that place. I'm
Mm.
like, whatever. And that's the journey. That's
Yeah.
the journey. So cut long story short, I basically started to discover property through divine intervention. I would definitely say it was a divine intervention, and that led me into property that has now allowed me to create a seven-figure business today.
Wow. Wow. I actually even just got emotional because I can imagine the state of mind at that point in time when you got that phone call and it's like, it's all gone. And you just think it's not there was no warning. It wasn't as though it was like a business decision you made and you could have thought, oh well, if I had done this or whatever, and it's like gone. So I can understand how that must have felt, just even um asking yourself why God. I mean, asking God why. What have I done wrong? And I totally get you on the African mom as checking what's wrong, what's happening. I can imagine the amount of texts and prayers being sent regularly. Don't worry, you'll be well, because they're conscious of what's happening to you, or you also are conscious. You've got your wife as well. You've got the kids, and it's like a lot of pressure. So. I mean, going back to what we said earlier, it's the mindset has got to be right, because obviously, if it's not right, you could easily have taken that failure. It could have been worse. It could have been. I might have not been able to speak to you, and thank God for God, because obviously, as Christians, we make reference to the fact that in some situations like that, only God can see you through, because we know a lot of people that have passed through even things that as not as deep as that, and yet are not able to come out the other side. But obviously, you did. Then, obviously, by intervention, being at the right place, right time. But again, I always say, even though it's being at the right place at the right time, opportunity meets a ready personality, because the mind was ready. It was just a case of I want to just grab onto the right opportunity, because again, the same information and the opportunity you talk about, which I would love to hear about, it could have happened to anyone and they wouldn't have been able to seize that opportunity at that point in time. But you had a ready mind, able to grab on and seize that opportunity, and now being in the position in a short space of time to building a seven-figure portfolio. I mean, this, if nothing else, this shows that one, anyone can. Doesn't matter how much failure you've experienced before, anyone can. And also, secondly, about being your opportunity, your readiness to actually being successful, to achieving financial freedom, because the opportunities will come on a daily basis. But how ready are you to seize it? So, can you tell us about how that opportunity came and how what were the readiness you did to be able to assist that? Because up until now, you had not done property, right? So, why did you think this was another venture that you could actually be successful in?
Very interesting question. Now, I think this is where, you know, I talk about divine intervention and God a lot. Some people say
Mm,
you get lucky. Yes, I know people do get lucky, but sometimes I do believe that people get a bit luckier when God is actually taking you somewhere. You see, I'm not trying
mm,
to compare myself to Jesus Christ, but if you look at the death of Jesus Christ when he was killed, when he was born, right from day one, he knew what his mission is, was to save humanity and mankind, right? So if
mm,
you look at the story of Jesus really, really well, he's coming to die for, he came here to die for us as a savior. But what probably, he was prepared, he was really, really prepared for that. And once he was being beaten, he still forgave. Like, oh, the people I've come to save, all right, is, you know, they are the one treating me like this. And often, sometimes
mm,
entrepreneurs don't, uh, I think most entrepreneurs just think the moment you start a business, it's going to go well. So the moment you begin that journey is going to go well. So I use Jesus Christ, like I said, to kind of, because that's a story that's quite personal to me. You know, I use
mm,
Jesus Christ there because when we begin this journey of our purpose that God has called you into, so sometimes we just believe that it could be a career. It could be that you're going to become the chief judge, the first black judge, in the United Kingdom.
mm,
And sometimes people just believe, okay, I'm going to go and become the first black judge. I'm going to go and become the first most creative doctor in the history of medicine that's ever created. But the fact is that people are going to come at your race. People are going to come at your business. People are going to come at your marriage. People are going to dig, 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 and find different kind of things about you that will put you down so that you start to look down on yourself. Because remember, if you don't believe yourself that you're going to pass an exams, you're not going to pick a book to read. If you don't believe
yeah.
in yourself that where you're going to, you're going to be, you're going somewhere today. Okay, like, I want to be the star of the day. If you don't pre-inform yourself with and set an intention for where you're going to, sometimes you might end up actually not actually, being able to make an impact. So as an entrepreneur, we think the moment we start a business that we are going to be successful. Yes, in as much as we are going to be successful in it, some of us might go through personal challenges. Some of us might go through business challenges. Some of us will go through financial challenges. So the personal challenges
Mm,
here, imagine you just went today. Just let's think about this for a minute. You wanted to start a business and all of a sudden you needed £100,000 investor or investment, and you shared
mm,
your idea with two or three people. Instantly, the two out of the two or three people that you're speaking to then gives you 100. One of them gives you £100,000, and then the next thing,
mm,
whether you're married as a man and wife or man and man, whatever that is, the next thing, your other half that you're expecting a lot of support from files for divorce. Instantly, the money that you've just raised an investment, the divorce start to affect your mindset. Now you cannot function with the £100,000 investment because now you're going for divorce, you're going through all those emotional roller coaster. Then whilst you're going through the emotional roller coaster, then the next thing, maybe health issues happens. Now you're no longer chasing business. All of a sudden you're chasing divorce, you're chasing health challenges, and then people end
mm,
up quitting. But actually, when they should, if they were prepared correctly to say, okay, fine, that was a challenge, this was a challenge, but in the end, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. So whilst I gone through everything that I went through, I think the biggest thing that held me down, the biggest thing that helped me and say, you know what, Daniel, you got this. I kept hearing something in my head throughout the last, if I'm right now, probably the last 8 years, that after this challenge that you've gone through, there is massive success awaits you. And I don't know what it is, but it's just there. But this truck these two trucks that got burnt, there is it was the fact that no, Nigeria was not your calling, here was your calling. And let me tell you this, before 2015, I've never had an ongoing success upon success upon success. It was more like there was so many roller coasters after roller coasters after roller coasters. So for me, going back now and looking back 22 years in my journey as an entrepreneur, and this is why I want entrepreneurs like me who are either started their journey to kind of look back and say, you know what, yes, I will be successful, but in this road of becoming a successful entrepreneur, it's not going to be, it's going to be, there's going to be a roller coaster, and it's okay, because when things are going so perfectly in your life, you don't learn nothing. We only learn when things go wrong. We only learn when policies impact our businesses. We only learn when, a system breaks, and then we adapt a new system. And that is how entrepreneurs should
Mm.
think. And once entrepreneurs are able to think in that direction, what then happens is that they end up creating a business that tomorrow it will be self-sufficient with or without them. And this is the reason why you have the likes of Elon Musk, Sir Richard Branson, and so on and so forth. Sir Richard
Mm.
Branson is somebody that inspires me a lot, and he shares about when he was selling records, and he took these record labels and stuff to Paris, and ended up being arrested and sent to prison for a couple of hours, and then eventually he came out. Then he spoke about, how him and British Airways, how there was a lobbying issue here and there, and British Airways tried to put a restriction on Virgin Atlantic so that British Airways can continue to fly. So if you look at how he shares his personal story, it all makes sense when you're going through yours. Like, wow, okay, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that I'm
Mm.
going through
It's
this
okay to
now
have
because there's light at the end of this tunnel. And that is how you become prepared
yeah.
for the success that entrepreneurs encounter afterwards. So mindset and preparation. So your challenges are the preparations that takes you from one place to the other.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you're absolutely right in the fact that you learn a lot from setbacks. You learn a lot from failure. Well, you can the truth is it happens, it's going to happen anyway. You can choose how much you want to learn from it. And I like the way you sort of mentioned that it wasn't just that wasn't the first thing. The losing the 150,000 pounds wasn't the first thing that happened. There had been a lot of things that happened on your journey such that you could learn from that. And when this happened, although it was the biggest and it set you back, or was major, you had learned things along the line that prepared you for the next opportunity that you had. I mean, it is one of the things that when you sort of were sharing a story there, I just felt like, oh wow, there are some sort of things in our story, because whilst you were setting out to Nigeria in 2012 to actually then set up your business in Nigeria, that was when I stepped out from the 9 to 5 and set up my property business. So we have been running properties since for
Wow.
2012 since 2012, doing a lot of the strategies, and it's been like you rightly said, we have had loads of good days, and I'm very thankful to God for that, but we have had some really really low moments. So when you were sharing about being depressed or being set back, I have had those moments where you just think, oh, I just want it to be night. I don't want it to, when it's sort of the dawn is breaking, it's like, oh, is it going to be morning again? Because you're going to have loads of people on the phone, you're thinking of all the bills that need to be met and all of the commitments you've made. You have
Yes.
loads of bridging lenders, development finance, everything on you. And it's like, how do I meet up with this? So yes, you're right. It is good, and we share all of our success stories. But the truth is, you've got to be that refined person, prepared, knowing fully well things can go. I mean, what we do, the numbers that we sort of trade with, it's a lot. For a lot of people, most of the public, the biggest expense they would ever have is their personal
Yes.
mortgage. Now imagine you having several of those mortgages all tied to you. And yes, business is good, but are you prepared for that sort of commitment? I mean, we have been able to, when I say we, because I run this alongside my husband, and over the years we've been able to build an 8-figure property portfolio,
Wow.
and it's been great. And thankful to God for. But one of the things that thank you. One of the things that I've seen, because obviously I've snooped around your social media, and one of the things I've seen that you've done really well, and it's good to know that you've only started building this. Say you said about 2018, but you've built a very very good online presence. Since then, you've been very intentional about what you've done. I was just sharing earlier about how we've crossed paths even though we didn't meet at an event that I was speaking in, and I think you came in or whatever. So I have seen a lot of the engagement you've had online. What's been the major drive to doing that? Because it's very impressive. I'd love to get there someday, but it is very impressive. What's been the major drive to doing that? If you want to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beauty of failure is you build experience. The beauty of failure is you build
Mm,
experience. All right. And when you build experience, it allows you to become intentional. All right. It allows you to become very, very intentional in what you want to do and what you want to become. So one of the things that's really helped me was, again, like, in 2015, I lost money. How do I get myself back? Driving over 180, 150 hours a week as an Uber driver. How do I build myself back? You know, how do I build a
mm,
business? I learned that actually, yeah, you can actually find people, human beings, that eventually can back you up as you go on this journey.
yeah.
And I became very intentional by developing myself so much that I knew I have to build a brand. I knew I had to be known. I knew, I need to be trusted. I know I need to build that integrity. I know I need to leverage of my many years of experience and knowledge. And I just knew and I knew and
Mm,
I knew. So because I knew, I became very intentional of where I want to go with who I am. I wanted to now build a business that eventually, within a very short set of time, I can make a transition to making it global. And in order for me to make it intentional to become
mm,
global, if I'm going to attract the money from the Qataris, and I'm going to attract money from international investors and all these different people, I've got to be known. I've got to be seen online. And these days, as a business person, you are who Google say you are. If anybody Google your name and there is no
mm,
backtrack of who you are, and you being very open about where you've come from, you know, then it's going to be important. It's going to be very hard for private investors to work with you. So for me now,
yes.
at the level I am now in my organization, one of the reasons why I wrote the test, which is my second book, and I use a lot of my life lessons. I learned something from one of my mentors in the US. And I was in a particular session, and he said in the US, if you haven't failed more than 5 times, investors don't work with you. If you haven't
Wow.
failed up to 5 times, people would not work with you as an investor. But in the UK, if you fail once or twice, in fact, if you fail once, the UK doesn't give you second chances. UK is one shot and you're done.
Mm,
But in the US is like
mm,
5 times of failure, even more failures. In fact, they
mm,
still help you. But for me, I then decided to incline myself with the American style and the American business. And again, no disrespect to the UK, no disrespect to property investors in the UK. The UK is very negative. People here in the UK are very negative about money. And they're also very negative about,
mm,
why do I care? You're not this big brand. The only people that is really celebrated in the UK are people who are celebrities in terms of musicians, footballers, and I haven't really, especially even, for us as a black man, I haven't seen so many, 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 many black people who have been able to successfully build a business and build a brand around them. So for
mm.
me, looking at this, I said, you know what? That is a market. All right. If there are people
I
who
can
have
stand
done this
out.
really, really well, again, in the British culture, the one person that have done it really well is the guy with the Apprentice. What's his name now? Apprentice. What's it? Lord Sugar. He's done his branding really well.
Oh yeah.
He's got a TV show to his name.
Mm,
Simon Cowell done it really well.
mm,
All right. Sir
mm.
Richard Branson, I love him. You know, and
I can tell.
I just love him because now he's gotten a business, he's built it right, he's got private investors, and guess what? The bank are interested in his business. And that is what you want to do and build
Mm,
in a business. So you have a name, you have a brand, you have the facts to back it, and gradually your facts are very visible. You become an investable entrepreneur. And when you become an investable entrepreneur, not
mm,
just that the fact that the numbers work, you also have a brand to back it. And I'll give you an example. If somebody comes today and say, if Richard Branson goes online today and say, "Oh, my business is going bankrupt. I need help. I need $1 billion." Trust me, there will be hundreds of people who will come out to rescue him.
Yeah,
He's got a
absolutely.
name, he's got the brand, and he's got the business. If Elon Musk comes out
Mm,
tomorrow and say, "I need a billion, I need hundreds of billions of dollars," people are not actually going to look at his business. They're going to invest in Elon Musk because you know why? He's been a brain behind Tesla, SpaceX, and the list goes on and on. And he's over the years failed as well as over the years won a lot. So you have to learn to become an
yeah,
investable entrepreneur, and the easiest way to achieve that, being an investable entrepreneur, is to have a brand behind your name. If people don't know who you are, people are
yeah.
not going to pay attention.
That's interesting because I think one of the things that just got there, and listeners, if you've not picked that up, I'll just reiterate it for you. I mean, Dr. Daniel has just mentioned how he's learned from his past failures, such that it helped him be very intentional on his next venture. So there was no two ways about it. He knew exactly what he wanted to, and obviously he saw a gap in the market as a black man, and he had seen that there were some business. There were lots of people did not have branded businesses, and he saw a gap and decided to go ahead and fill that gap with his business. And then second, I mean, is one of the other things he's also done is also make sure you build a brand. For you to be an investable entrepreneur, people have got to know who you are. And I always say this to my mentees as well. Just not, I mean, so some people are very precious on their credit rating. Oh, I've not lent anything. Sometimes, not sometimes, most times, the bank would lend to someone that has actually not the best credit rating, but they have some credit backing. They've gone through the credit system than someone that is totally clean, never had even a mobile phone, no credit whatsoever to their name because they've not been tested and trusted. So sometimes being tested, even though it's not as print as you want it, and I think it's the same thing with social media. I have had lenders Google me. I mean, every now and then I just see you just say somebody this on LinkedIn, this person checked you, look it up. It's a potential lender. So not only are they looking at your credit rating these days, they're actually googling who you are, what you're about, and a lot your social presence is almost like that. It's your social credit rating, isn't it? Your
Absolutely.
social rating really does matter. So I mean, you've heard it from Dr. Daniel. One of the questions in wrapping this up that I have is in setting up any business or achieving financial freedom or whatever pursuit any of our listeners are on, and I'll use this specific question in terms of your own journey to sort of relate it. There are some challenges we could come across in trying to be intentional and achieve your goal. Have you, during building your brand, come across like trolls? How has that sort of deterred you from building what you want, or have you just been indifferent to that? Because I mean, that's one of the concerns that I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, I don't mind. I'll put this out there. I'll do this. But what if, I mean, I don't speak properly. I don't look this way. I don't do this." And there's a lot of doubts in your mind. And not, I don't know where they doubt. Sometimes these things come to life. People do troll you for certain things. How have you been able to combat that in not letting that deter you from the goal?
Very interesting question, by the way. As you know, I'm somebody that's very active on social media. I wasn't born here.
Mm,
I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. I came to this country at the age of 20 something. I was already a full blown adult. Got married
mm,
within 2 years when I came to this country. English is not my first language. I was born, bred, and raised in Edo State, Benin City, and my accent was terrible. My
mm.
communication skills not the greatest. People say to me, "No, you don't come across that," but I
To
still
stop
score,
you from making money.
I still score myself quite low in terms of how I communicate. But in the end,
Mm,
I remember first time I started doing videos, and somebody actually, I'll say this very, very openly, and and it's good to be very open about certain things. I remember people took a picture of poo and posted it on my social media, and to say "shut your mouth," and series of that came through. I just took it
wow.
and I said, Kevin is my social media marketer, manager. I said, Kevin, what do we do? At that time, it was my manager, but now he's a director in the company. So I was like, Kevin, what do we do? Kevin's like, oh my days. So I said, you know what? We just deleted it. We deleted. And then people went, there was a lot of negative comments, for the first couple of posts. Um, and guess what? The importance of mentorship. And I was on a mentoring session with my mentor. My mentor then said, actually, when you see them next time, support it. It helps the algorithm. I'm like,
Mm,
whoop, okay. And I just, we just left it. So anybody goes on my social media now to post anything negative. We just leave it because it sparks up a good debate. All right, it
Mm,
sparks up people debating on your stuff, and the more people comment on your stuff, the more Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn will show it to more people. So
mm,
for me, don't seek perfection. Perfection is, I even spoke about perfection mindset in my new book called The Test. My how I spoke, you know, property investment. In fact, property investment in the United Kingdom is an industry dominated. I was at there was an article I got featured in, and I said property investment in the UK is a white dominated industry. How do you think that's actually making an impact
mm,
for you? So I then said, well, I think my answer was that fantastic is white dominated, but this is one of the reasons why I want to play in it at the higher level so that that perspective can
yeah.
also change. So there can be a lot of references to, okay, in a white dominated industry, we have all these different black entrepreneurs in property who are springing up. And that is my mindset. So I use, because when you rise above here, there is a lot of all the things that could not make you rise. But here, it's all about how
Mm,
much can we do to support each other to take you to the next level. So for me, instantly, in order for me to eliminate my lack mentality, I'm working every single day to rise from the bottom to the top, because when I know when I get
mm,
here, people gradually just pick interest and support you. So, and that should be the mindset of
yeah.
every listener. Don't let your language or how you
Mm,
spoke or how you behave hold you back. Because once upon a time, Dr. Daniel Moses, I wasn't a doctor. Once upon a time, who told me I can
mm,
write a book? I could have actually, castigated never writing a book. Now I've got a second book,
mm,
coming out. And I've also made it the fact I want to write one book per year. So don't let the reason why you can't start be the reason why you're driving through to becoming the greatest version of yourself, rather than actually letting it tear you down and put you down. If you're not growing every single day,
yeah.
you're dying. So what you want to do is to learn to grow every single day so that you're not dying. It's as simple as that. So don't become a victim of your own decisions, saying, okay, because I'm black, I can't do ABC. Because I didn't go to school, I can't do ABC. Then learn to pay to play.
Mm.
Pay to play to be in circles that is
Wow.
bigger than you.
Yeah, pay to play in circles. Absolutely. I won't even bother trying to water down what you said by trying to reiterate because that was loaded. You might need to go back and listen to that again. It is really loaded. You've got to understand where you are to know where you're going to play. I wouldn't, but that was I would go listen to that again because I think there was a lot of points, there were a lot of tips in that. Absolutely great. I think just I could continue this for a long, long time. But one of the I want to find out. One, I want to you to talk us through your next book, the tests, and how our listeners can get all of that. But also, where do you see the business going in the next few years? And I totally, by the way, resonate with you because when I started off getting a property, I remember a lovely Caucasian friend of mine. I was in a network group. I was just, I think it was a business networking group. And she said to me, "Can I be very honest with you?" And I think I've shared that in previous episodes of Financial Freedom. Now, she said one of the major things. There are three things I think could affect you in actually going big in property because this was the early stages. She said, "I think you're young." At the time, I was young. I don't feel that young, but I was in my early 20s. And I said, I think you're young. I think you're, oh no, it wasn't early 20s. I wish. And she said, I think you're female. Again, we know that there are not loads of females in the property industry. And then she said, you're black. I said, don't shoot the messenger. And the truth is, all of those three things at some point in time has actually manifested itself. But all those, I always appreciate that conversation because I feel like it made me prepared to know what the haters, as it were going to come at me, and you're prepared for that journey. You just like, you know what, we go literally, it's one of those things, and not necessarily see it as a personal attack. So I love everything you said in there. That's why I said I'm going to go back and re-listen to what you said. But where do you see the business going in the next 3 to 5 years, and how can we reach you? Get our hands on your book.
Fantastic questions, by the way. So actually, the vision is not where we're going the next 3 years. The vision is where we're going the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, our vision is very simple. Within the next 10 years, we want to build a 9-figure business in the UK. We just want to build a nine-figure business, and fingers crossed, not just building that within the UK. We want to be able to have a business, a division across, five countries. That obviously spanning way through to Dubai, US,
Mm.
Canada, and Nigeria as well. So it just, we want to be able to, expect,
Global.
go global, expand our business, and expand our relationship. With the kind of economy that we have now
Mhm.
expanding across the globe, you have to kind of spread, and through spreading, if one
Mm.
economy is doing bad, the other economy bounces off you. So I'm helping a lot of Nigerians at the moment, because there's been a lot of uncertainty in Nigerian economy, to literally grow here in the United Kingdom, so they have foreign exchange to live a life they want to live in Nigeria. Or when the Nigerians love to travel abroad a lot, so when they travel abroad, when they're here in the UK, they don't
Mm.
have to worry about converting the naira to pounds, whilst they're here. So that's just one example.
Mm.
Again, I want to be in a situation whereby I'm traveling to the US and I have rental portfolio there in the US. I've got a lot of dollars. So I don't need to worry about traveling.
Mhm.
All I just need to do is get my visa if I need one, or get my my credit card ready and rock and roll. Simple. I don't have to worry about
Yeah,
nothing else,
absolutely.
and just go there and enjoy my life. It's as simple as that.
Wow, wow, that's good. That global business. Well, I was doing double thumbs up to you because that is the dream, I have no doubt you would achieve that. Just looking at your journey, how can we get this book? I'm
Fantastic.
excited. I want to see. I want to read the text.
Fantastic. So, what we're going to be doing, the show notes, there's going to be a link somewhere about to pre order the book. So, the book is available right now for
Yeah.
pre
Okay.
ordering. That's number one. And the
Oh,
book signing
fantastic.
event is on the 14th of July. So, on the 14th of July, everyone is going to be able to go on Amazon and buy the actual book. And for those who are coming into the event, you're going to get buy one, get one free, and plus get another extra book on my
Wow.
of my previous. So there's going to be a lot of offers
Mm.
happening on that day. So on the 14th of July is the book signing event.
Okay.
Is in Bromley Football Ground, which is our home of most of our events. It's on the 14th, starts at 6 p.m.
Mm.
and we finish at 12 midnight. It's going to be a lot of enjoyment, a lot of drinks, a lot of food, a lot of entertaining, a lot of networking, guest
Party.
speakers, party. And I hope to see you there, Tony.
I will. I will. I'll put it. I'll check the diary. Definitely, I would want to be there.
Great. So the links are going to be available for
Yeah, that's
everyone to get.
fantastic. So just like absolutely. So yeah, we would include the part of this show notes. We would include the link to actually pre-order the book because I think that's definitely a book you want to get because we've only just given you a snippet of Dr. Daniel's life and how he's been able to transition from having several failures to be able to build a successful business, property business, achieving financial freedom. Because I mean, you've heard him say it. He was an Uber driver. He's held down normal or subnormal jobs that people would think a lot of people can easily get sink in there, but he's not done that. He's literally transformed his life. So just reading this book and listening to this and obviously following his journey, I think if that would not make you move from where you are now to where you want to be, achieving financial freedom, achieving financial independence, moving towards success, then I don't know what will. But I implore you, like we always say in all of our episodes, is you want to achieve financial freedom because that is where you start to live life as you ought to. So looking forward to actually spending some time with you on the 14th of July as well, and celebrating. So please, if you are and you can make it, make sure you try and get the link and follow Dr. Daniel, and you'll be able to get the link to actually booking onto the 14th of July as well. Thank you so much for coming on this Financial Freedom Now show. It's been absolute pleasure hearing, listening. I've been glued to the camera myself purely because I'm learning a lot of things as well as hearing your journey and seeing some sinking in our journeys. And it's like you rightly said, you get to a particular point and everyone is looking to support each other. It's no longer competition at that stage. It's more of collaboration. And I love it when I hear things like that. So it's right up my street. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on the Financial Freedom Now show. Any last learnings or shares with our audience before we wrap up?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here, and as well as I'm looking forward to getting feedbacks from everyone who's listened. Just make sure you go and reach out, follow on social media, and as well as one final word: perfection is a killer. All right. There's one saying that I love a lot. It says, "Get started now, figure the rest later." A lot of people want to start something, but they, just basically talk themselves down. No, they're not, they want it perfect. They want it to be clean when it's starting. No, just get started anyhow and achieve your personal goals. It's as
Mm.
simple as that. So I hope the words resonate with you, and we'll see you on the other side.
Absolutely. We want to see you on the other side. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Financial Freedom Now. It's been your usual host, Toyin Ayodare. Until next time, thank you. Stay blessed. God bless you.